a quick look through the list here, and there's a lot of familiar names on here. Appreciate you coming by and joining us. I know that we're entertaining a lot of auxiliaries today, and as a matter of fact, I happen to know we have at least one Coast Guard active duty person on board with us. Lieutenant Pearson, thank you so very much for joining us. Lieutenant Pearson is our liaison with Sea Scouts to the sector. Is very actively involved in all of our activities, and again, we appreciate that that we have that kind of awesome support from the gold side as well as the silver side. Today we're going to talk about Aux Scout, and that's Sea Scouts BSA and the Coast Guard Auxiliary, what the program is, what it means to us, and how it's an awesome tool for flotillas and divisions to use for any number of purposes. We'll talk a little bit about the background of the program. We're going to talk about Sea Scouts and what they are and who they are. Then we'll dive a little bit into the Aux Scout program, a few specifics about it. We won't go too deep. Those are probably discussions for another time. And then next steps on how we can implement the program in our flotillas and divisions. Sea Scouts is a great program. It has been around for over 100 years, and it's the oldest senior program in the Boy Scouts of America. It is essentially Boy Scouts on water. It's as simple as that. It's open to young men and women ages 14 through 21. It's a co-ed program. You'll find that some units, Sea Scout ships is what their units are called. Some are all male, some are all female, and then quite a number of them are co-ed. And that's a choice that the individual program owners or charter organizations can make. Sea Scouts is designed to promote better citizenship and improve boating skills through instruction and practice. It's as simple as that. Through adult interaction with youth, we hope to prepare our young men and young women to be better citizens and to be fully involved in the processes that make them better citizens. And of course, right along the same lines of what we do in the auxiliary, Sea Scouts has for a long time been one of the forefront organizations promoting improved recreational boating skills. And there, we do that quite frankly by teaching our scouts things in formats such as this, and a didactic nature, and sitting down and having a chat with them, and most importantly with getting them on the water. And Sea Scouts, not unlike auxiliary, is very social based, and similar to our element of fellowship. Sea Scouts relies very heavily on young men and women and their leaders getting together and doing some of those same types of activities. We promote STEM education, which is something that you're going to hear a whole lot more about through the Aux Scout program as time goes on. Leadership, teach leadership skills, community service, and of course life skills. Sea Scouts is one of the few places, for example, that you may find a Sea Scout leader teaching a young man or a young woman how to balance a checkbook, because apparently they don't teach that in school anymore. If you want to get more information about the Sea Scout program, specifically from a Boy Scouts of America perspective, I encourage you to please visit the website that's listed below at www.seascout.org. Sea Scouts in the Pacific area, AOR, is quite an opportunity for us. BSA estimates that there are well over 170,000 youth members that's in the Pacific area AOR. About 1/3 of that number is actually right here in our own district. Out of those, there's just over 4,000 youth that are registered in the Sea Scout and Venturing programs currently. But what's even more exciting to us, and we're going to talk more about the session, which is recruitment and retention, is you can see there's over 260,000 BSA eligible youth in the Pacific AOR. Again, about 1/3 of those youth reside right here in District 11. These are individuals and their parents, of course, that are eligible to participate in auxiliary programs. So our partnership with the BSA and Coast Guard Auxiliary certainly can mean and should mean accessions, good recruitment for both the BSA and the auxiliary, as well as Coast Guard. And that's one of our missions and goals. Our younger auxiliary members that can join through the Sea Scout program helps us to ensure membership growth in the auxiliary and unit sustainability. So in 2009, the Coast Guard Auxiliary signed a memorandum of agreement to partner with the Boy Scouts of America. This memorandum of agreement, which was about 12 to 14 years in the works, solidified our formal relationship and made the Sea Scout program the official youth program of the auxiliary. Now, we do also support collaterally the Girl Scouts USA, and we also support collaterally the Sea Cadet program. But the Sea Scouts BSA program is the one program that we have agreements for cross-training and program participation and operations and all that. The MOA is has some objectives to it that should be familiar to auxiliaries. Public education programs. We invite our Sea Scouts, of course, to participate in those programs. And also, you will notice that as you have Sea Scouts get involved in your flotillas and divisions, those young men and women can become instructors and also involve themselves in the delivery of those important auxiliary programs. Water safety educational outreach. Again, being able for auxiliary to expand its cadre of members that can provide those outreach programs. You know, a Sea Scout, 14 years or older, who joins the auxiliary can become an instructor, can become a vessel examiner, can become part of any program in the auxiliary program, with the exception of being a coxswain or a crew member. But they certainly can take advantage of the training that's associated with that. There's facilities resource support. There's an old joke out there. It's why buy a boat when all you have to do is move into a home where your neighbor has a boat. Similar in the Sea Scout program. You know, the Sea Scouts have resources that can be made available as facilities to the Coast Guard Auxiliary flotillas and divisions. And of course, volunteer support, which is so very important to the sustaining our membership and sustaining our operations in the auxiliary. We can use Sea Scouts and Sea Scout leaders to augment our existing programs. Now, there's some special considerations that have come around in the Aux Scout program. For example, all Scout leaders are automatically, and Sea Scouts are automatically associate members of the Auxiliary Association. These are persons that don't pay dues unless, of course, they become full members of the auxiliary, but they are already covered under certain auxiliary insurances and et cetera, so that we don't have to worry about you know, some young man or young women joining us and having to go through insurance or getting permission to participate with a flotilla. That's already been handled by their associate membership. Flotillas and divisions are, of course, encouraged to do certain things that would foster relationships and develop relationships with Sea Scout ships. What we would like all flotillas to do is to reach out to local Sea Scout ships and just, even in the beginning, offer up your contact information, let them know that you're available to share training opportunities and develop that relationship. If a flotilla or division so desires, they are also encouraged and permitted to charter Sea Scout ships. And if you have any desire to do that, give us a yell and we'll help you through that process. Remember that Sea Scouts for at least 14 years of age are permitted to apply for full membership in the auxiliary. A Sea Scout who's between 14 and 17, again, cannot become a coxswain or cannot become a crew member, but they can be totally involved otherwise in our programs and training. As a matter of fact, a couple neat caveats there. Sea Scout, youth Sea Scout member who's a member of the auxiliary could actually be, with a waiver, the secretary of your flotilla. They can also, without waiver, become the public affairs FSO if that was something that you desired. So these are not just young kids that are going to hang around at your flotilla meeting. These are young kids that are going to hang around at your flotilla meeting and become fully involved in your flotilla operations and administration. Apologize. Sometimes PowerPoint's not happy with GoToMeeting. So we are looking to develop a solid relationship with the Sea Scouts, not just because they're out there and there's something to do or they're looking for something to do. We intend to have Sea Scouts be an integral part of the auxiliary program. And the way that we're going to do that is to, again, develop outreach programs, develop relationships, and bring the two organizations closer together. Facts are, both Sea Scouts and BSA are experiencing challenges with accession. It's difficult to bring people in these days to an organization that is just meeting online, that can't have that one-to-one interaction with folks. And otherwise, BSA and auxiliary has experienced over the years difficulties like other volunteer organizations recruiting individuals to become part of the program. We hoped that by bringing Sea Scouts and the auxiliary together, we'll be able to join both organizations and improve the sessions for both. And developing enhanced programs for training is very much on our radar. We are currently developing STEM education programs. If you haven't experienced STEM before, this is the buzzword of the decade, it seems, in our local schools, in businesses. This is the education that gets right down to the nitty-gritty with science and technology and math. And these are all programs that fit squarely within both the Sea Scouts and inside of the auxiliary missions. So we did the MOA, we did Youth Programs Division, which was established originally under the HR Directorate, now the new S Directorate, or the redesignated S Directorate. We've set specific goals and objectives which have been developed and approved by National Boy Scouts and by the National Auxiliary Association and Auxiliary Leadership. We developed a standard operating procedure and have disseminated that. If you have not seen that already, we'll show you some web links at the end of the presentation. I encourage everyone to download the SOP. It's got very important information in there regarding the nitty-gritty rules and regulations being involved with youth. And now we're in the continuing phase of implementing the Aux Scout program nationally. For the implementation, what is probably most important, and I've heard from ships and flotillas nationwide, hey, what do we do? Gosh, this whole idea of jumping into the whole Sea Scout thing and starting a ship, it just seems overwhelming to us, and we recognize that. The key element that we would like to focus on in this district is the developing relationships. We have a lot of Sea Scouts in the Bay Area. I'm a member of the Sea Scout ship Chaser out of Napa. I've been cruising with that ship for well over 20 years, and we are just one of many ships in the area that are already established and welcome auxiliary participation. We would love to have you come by and visit us and be part of our training, our programs, and of course our fellowshipping activities. Matter of fact, Chaser is the place to be. We got a great galley, and if you want to eat well, come visit Chaser. We're we're more than happy to entertain you and have you come on up. We need members in the auxiliary to participate in necessary training. All of it's available online, and this ranges everywhere from youth protection training, which is required for any person who's going to have contact with youth, all the way up through safe swim defense and safety afloat, other BSA programs, which you'll find helpful for your auxiliary activities as well. Please include in your flotilla and division programs and your session goals Aux Scout program. We have an opportunity to recruit from this group and engage them. If you plug them into your annual program, I think that you'll find that you'll have some real positive outcomes with those relationships. And of course, the last is, if you ever get around to it, we'd love for you to charter a Sea Scout ship in your local area. This is not a requirement. It's certainly nothing that should stop any flotilla or division from participating in Sea Scouts. But we do have some excited programs going on throughout the United States where flotillas and divisions have chartered ships, and they're experiencing quite a awesome range of successes, and even during this COVID pandemic. Working with Sea Scouts is really not all that difficult. Everybody here in this room was either a teenager once, or knows a teenager, or has teenagers, or has teenage grandchildren. They're excited. They want to do things. Matter of fact, they're willing to do things like maybe demonstrated in this picture here that you and I don't feel like doing anymore. And by the way, just because they're jumping in the water doesn't mean you have to jump in the water too. You're welcome to join them if you want. But these young men and women truly want to learn about the maritime challenges, programs, experiences, and opportunities that we're exposed to regularly. The reason why they join Sea Scouts most generally, is because they like the water to start with. They like to sail and cruise. And they want to be involved. The auxiliary brings a whole additional set of opportunities to these young people that they may not have had before. We have cross-referenced our auxiliary functions and programs with and public education with the advancement requirements in the Sea Scouts, and we can make that available to you. Where you can actually take a look at what they need to do to advance, for example, to quartermaster or able rank, and you can find the auxiliary programs that we provide that would help them to do that. So again, engaging with youth is very simple. The only thing that we require is that you follow a few rules with youth engagement, and they're not very difficult. They're all common sense, and they're easy to comply with and abide with. Some of the training is onerous in the sense that I'll be frank with you, I've been on a couple better training programs than youth protection, but we all muscle through it. It takes 45 minutes of our time every 2 years, and we're good to go with some of those basic requirements. When providing underway training, again, this slide just reminds us that there are certain rules that coxswains and crew members are going to have to keep in mind. These range from permission slips when working with youth and eyeballing a few pieces of paper, but there's no record keeping that the coxswain or crew member has to worry about. That's all handled by the Auxiliary Association and by the Scout leaders. But go ahead and make sure that the kids are invited, and that we follow some simple rules about making sure we're youth protection trained. They have permission slips, and we've notified sector, for example, when getting orders that you're going to have these youth members on board. And if you have questions about the specifics of all of that, be sure to drop me a line. We'll get you all the information that you need to make sure that you don't have any trouble with that. Now, I want to spend most of the time today opening it up to questions and comments and discussing the program with you. I can go on for hours, and that doesn't do you any good. But I want to offer you some ideas on some next steps, and then have a discussion about what we can do as a district to engage the Sea Scout program in our neck of the woods. But I will encourage you to do these few things. One is read and understand the Aux Scout SOP. Again, if you haven't got that, I'll put up the link here where you can get that information. It's a standard, straight up Coast Guard style SOP. So some of it is pretty straightforward. Some of it's a little confusing. We'll answer all the questions for you. If you haven't already, appoint and support Aux Scout officers in every division. Every division should have a DSO, excuse me, an SO for AS, and flotillas are encouraged to have an FSO for AS if they're in the mood to support the programs. Reach out to local Scout leaders and Boy Scout councils. Someone here, Kristen, thank you very much, put up a list of Western Region ships. These are, Western Region is the Boy Scouts region. If ships in California, Nevada, feel free to reach out to them. Also, you may feel free to reach out to Wade McAdam, who's probably reached out to your flotilla already to assign some ships to you. Wade's been doing a great job in the Bay Area. If he hasn't reached out to you, let me know. We'll be sure to get in touch. And then tailor Aux Scout participation to your flotilla and division resources, your availability, and your locale. Not every flotilla and division has the same resources as the other. California, our Northern California folks have a lot of Sea Scouts, for example, in the Bay Area, and a lot of opportunities. Out here in Utah, we have only a handful of Sea Scouts out here currently, even though we have more recreational shoreline in Utah than does the state of California. So our resources are a little bit different geographically. You may find that you have flotilla members that are not at all interested in dealing with teenagers, and that's just fine. There's nothing wrong with a couple flotilla members from over here and a couple flotilla members from another flotilla getting together and offering their time and their services to the Sea Scout program. Sometimes that's what we need to do to develop interest in the program. Don't let those kinds of barriers or limitations, resource limitations, prevent you from being involved. We have AUXFS folks out there. You know, most Sea Scout ships do pretty good with cooking. I'm okay with it. Some of them need some help. And we certainly would like to have our AUXFS folks get involved with the Sea Scout program. There's training that they can do for them. They can cook a decent meal every once in a while. They can get involved. And most importantly, let's have fun with the program. If you don't have fun with auxiliary, and if you don't have fun with the Sea Scouts, it's not worth, quite frankly, in my opinion, not worth being involved with them. So make sure that you're building fun into all of the things that you're doing with them. Now here we've put up a list of some of the resources. Their Facebook page is pretty neat. Go ahead and check that out. The YouTube is a brand new YouTube channel for Aux Scout. We would like for you folks to check that out. As a matter of fact, if you go to that tinyurl.com, AUXScout-youth, what you'll do is go in there, take a look at some of the YouTube videos, click on the subscribe button, please. We need to get to 100 subscribers. And again, this is a brand new YouTube channel. We need to get to 100 subscribers so we can get a much easier web address for that YouTube channel. And my understanding is there's a gift or a prize for the 100th person. So I'd get in there and do it today because we're getting pretty close. Auxby Wiki is a wiki site that's been up for a while that covers all the youth programs. In auxiliary, you'll find a whole section on Aux Scout. There you'll find the SOP, the MOA, information on the STEM training, all kinds of stuff in there. Please be sure to check that out. There's a unit map. It's kind of interesting. It'll show you where all Sea Scout units are in the nation and where the flotillas are. And then there's the local Sea Scouts ships listing, which is Be a Scout. www.scouting.org. That actually shows all Scout units, whether it's Sea Scouts or Venturing or Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts. That will show you where local units are in your area. And it brings up another interesting point. We are not limited to our interaction with other scouting units. Cub Scouts in particular really, really like the stuff that we do in the auxiliary and what we do in Sea Scouts. There's things, presentations you can make to packs. There are things that Cub Scout dens and packs are always looking for, so it'd be a great place for auxiliary members to go ahead and get involved. Those individuals cannot participate as auxiliary members because they're too young, obviously, but certainly go ahead and make contact with the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and the whole family of scouting to see if there's public education opportunities or PA opportunities that you can be involved with. And of course, the Sea Scouts BSA website, which we mentioned before, is another site for information. If you can't find anything that you're looking for on all those, my contact information is below. You can call me or text me directly or send me an email message. I'll be quick to respond to you and find the information that you have, that you need if we don't already have it. Now let's talk Aux Scouts in general. Aux Scout is a new program to us in the auxiliary, but we've been working with Scouts over the years for a long time. It's just been formalized now. I would like to know if there are individuals or flotillas or divisions out there that have questions about how they can get involved with the Aux Scout program, or if they have perceived stumbling blocks that we can help you get over. And you can type your comments in the chat box. We sure would appreciate that. Or at this point, even unmute yourself and shout it out loud if you need to.
Hey, John-Michael, this is Bryce. I was going to say we were very fortunate over in Division 11, where Joe Hancock and Mark Ports are both very active with the Sierra Nevada Council, I believe it's called over here. Mm-hmm. And Mark is actually a member of our flotilla, and now he's recruited 2 more of their leaders to join our flotilla as well. And they're doing Zoom meetings right now, so we actually did one on Wednesday night. He called me and said, hey, I need someone to help with comms because he's not really super familiar with the comms. So he and I did the comms workshop, kind of an informal one for him, just so they can get used to the idea of why they can't use their cell phones on the water. And then he's working on some other stuff with them, but it was very helpful. And plus, it'll help the auxiliary out because we're going to get some members out of it.
Yeah, and thanks, Bryce, for chiming in there. That's one of the things that I look at that is a great advantage to us. We have an opportunity to engage. This is not just a passive opportunity where we show up and do a training program and then back out. This is an opportunity for these young folks to actually become engaged and even become members of the auxiliary program. And when I look from a recruiting and retention for both sides, this is an unbeatable combination. We have 2 organizations that are like-minded, have similar missions, and where they overlap, it's very compatible. Where they don't overlap, it's a great learning experience for both sides. One thing to keep in mind too, and it's been a misconception. Some units have thought, well, in order for a young Sea Scout to become a member of my auxiliary flotilla, they have to be in a ship that's sponsored by my flotilla division, and that's not so. So any young person who is 14 years or older and is registered as a Sea Scout can join the auxiliary, whether they're part of a flotilla ship or division ship or not. And this is something to reach out and encourage. Sometimes you're going to find you might find youth in a ship. You might have 8 or 10 or 20 youth in a ship if they've got a big ship, and maybe 3 or 4 of them are interested in becoming auxiliary members. We can go ahead and engage them and sign them up to become auxiliary members. Doesn't mean that the whole ship has to join, and it certainly doesn't mean that the ship has to be sponsored by the flotilla. And the same goes for your parents. The beauty of Sea Scout program is generally when you get a youth member that's going to join and become active with the auxiliary, we're finding that the parents come along with it. So you get at least 2 or 3 people with every sign up. Anita, thanks for chiming in. I appreciate you asking an important question. Can Boy Scouts participate in the auxiliary program? Boy Scouts can participate in flotilla and division programs as guests, no differently than we would invite anyone else from the public to engage in our programs, whether it's observing, public education, or fellowshipping, but they must be registered Sea Scouts in order to join the auxiliary or to participate more deeply in on-water programs. So if it's on the water, they can participate just like anybody else would as a guest when you jump through the hoops that are required for that. But if they are registered as Sea Scouts, they can participate a little bit more fully. And some of that, it comes down to some little minor tweaks here and there. For example, we have to contact sector and let them know we have a certain amount of guests on board if we're going to bring them on a mission underway. Now, if we have Sea Scouts on board, we actually specifically let sector know that there are Sea Scouts on board, and that's something that's recorded just a little bit differently for the ops folks. Did I answer that question for you well enough, Anita?
Yes. Can a boy be a Sea Scout and a Boy Scout at the same time?
Yes. Thanks for bringing that up. In Boy Scouts, we do a thing that's called dual or multiple registration. So a young boy can be a member of the Boy Scout troop, for example, and a member of a Sea Scout ship simultaneously. And if you send me the information, we'll get them into a ship as quick as you want.
I have a question regarding Sea Scouts getting on a patrol. Are they treated as guests, or they are treated like a member, just to let the station know that they are on board?
Sure. When we let the station know, if they are participating Sea Scout members, we let them know that there are Sea Scouts on board. When they are on board, if they are not auxiliary members, they are treated as we would normally treat any other guest. They don't get actively involved in the operation itself. They can observe. They can learn things that way. If they do become full auxiliary members, they can participate as trainees the same way as any other person does up until age 17, which then they can participate in qualifying for other things such as coxswain or crew.
Okay, so you are saying that they will need to sign the guest waiver just like any other guests?
No, if they're registered Sea Scouts, and it's just another one of those little tweaks in the system. If they're registered Sea Scouts, they do not have to sign the waiver. They will, however, you will see they'll have to have a permission slip from their parents, which the coxswain's going to have to eyeball that and make sure that they have it in their possession. But they don't have to sign that waiver. That's already included in the SOP and the memorandum of understanding that we have with BSA.
I see. Thank you.
You bet. Yes, as a matter of fact, if your flotillas have not done it already, every Scout administrative office, every local council office should be a PV site. That's a freebie for you. So yes, they should have those materials. And it's also part of our memorandum of agreement is that we permit the flotillas and divisions are also permitted to provide Scouts with those same materials, excuse me, for their own distribution. So whatever we distribute in a PV program, we can also provide to Sea Scouts and Sea Scout units to distribute. Keep in mind, and this is a neat thing, with our Sea Scout leaders and our youth, when we encourage them to join the auxiliary, if I have a young man or a young woman joins the auxiliary, I will want to see if they're interested in vessel examinations and program visits and public affairs and all that, because they can qualify and take the training for all of those certifications. As a matter of fact, a young person, and wait for the day to see this, but it is possible for a young person to earn their OXOP designation by the time they're 15 or 16 years old. They can participate in everything. Again, the only real restriction on the training and certification is coxswain and crew, and that's just because of the liability requirements with the Coast Guard and the BSA. Now, we have some great resources out there too locally. If you want to touch base and learn more about program, John Sargent, who's popped on. John is a longtime Sea Scouter. He's a fellow that I know if you were to check in with him and want to learn some more about what's going on in the Richmond area with Sea Scout Ship Northland, he would be more than happy to provide you some information there. We have ship programs that range in size from got small canoe, paddleboarding, and scuba units, all the way up to large ships. John, what size was Northland again?
102 feet.
At 102 feet. We have chasers about 96 feet. We burn fuel instead of air, and we get all these kids on board are handling our engineering. They stand our watches. They do our navigation. They take control of the helm. These are well-trained young men and women that are steeped in the maritime traditions and would like to be part of us. Do we have any other questions? Well, I appreciate you joining. I'm hoping to see that we have extended participation with auxiliary in our Sea Scout programs in our district. Again, if you do need to contact me, I'm easy to find. I'm the DSOAS here in the district and the branch chief for programs nationwide. Give me a call or drop me an email, and I'll be more than happy to help you out with your Aux Scout program. That's all we've got today.
Thanks for asking to get this recorded, because it'll be good to have. And John, I'll have the presentation that you and I did at Safety at Sea the year before last, I think it was. So, you know, maybe we can get that put up someplace where people can see it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Good idea.
That was at Coast Guard Center, San Francisco.
Okay, yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.